Hello, good morning. It is Wednesday, January 15th, and I'm Rob, that developer dad. And we're working in C Sharp and .NET on a few projects, all of them related to the one big project. Um, yeah, I'm working on getting ready to get the DMs familiar out the door and launched and all that stuff. And So I'm working on the administrative backend for that's going to sit between the merchant of record that I'm going to be using and my backend systems, so that all of those things that have to happen when somebody signs up happen automatically, so I don't have to be glued to my phone or my laptop uh, creating users and assigning groups and all of that stuff, because that's a giant pain in the neck. And yesterday, I was able to generate a upgrade subscription link, paste that into a browser, go through that experience at Lemon Squeezy, hit process, and then receive and successfully process uh, one of the webhook calls that comes in. Because when somebody makes a purchase or um, a an interaction happens on Lemon Squeezy that where they're manipulating their subscription, I'll receive multiple webhooks for whatever that subscription manipulation may have been. And I'm starting to see error messages happen in my systems because I'll get create subscription requests come in from excuse me, Lemon Squeezy, and then I'll get a subscription update request that gets translated into a create subscription request because of my application logic. And it tries to run that and says, hey, we can't create a subscription for a subscription that already exists. What are you doing? And sends an error message back to Lemon Squeezy. And I don't want to do that. It's sort of a false error. So because of this multiple webhook request, where the requests are all essentially doing the same manipulation against the same subscription, I want to set up just a small in-memory cache in the API that will record when something comes in and says, "Okay, cool, we got we have a request to do some things. Let's let's see what's going on." And then when the subsequent requests come in, it'll look at that list of things that it's currently working on and say, "Okay, I'm already doing a create for subscription ID 123456," and return basically some HTTP response like a no content or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, we got it. It's cool. Thank you. So out here in the process store event endpoint, and I've got some cleanup to do in here. I'm doing a lot of work in this endpoint extensions thing, this endpoint extensions class. I'm doing a lot of stuff in here that I really should move to another class to encapsulate all these details, because I want these methods to be very, very thin, and I want this class to be focused on just adding the endpoint extensions, or just adding the endpoints rather. But I've got all this other stuff. Um, I've got guard required services exist, build detail from event data, and I think what I'm going to need to do is string ls subscription ID string.empty, and I'm going to need to plumb into this stuff. So ls subscription ID equals Paste that in here. Data, excuse me, and I got to get the JSON path to that attribute. Now I've got a copy of one of these inbound requests here. So data, ID, type subscriptions, cool. Excuse me. Data.id and var ls operation type. You know what? We should probably do that out here in the main thing, but this will do for now. Pardon me. So we're going to need that data. And let's see here. We're not going to put it on the subscription action detail. What I actually need to do is come down here. And I want to bool is event is processing. Excuse me. Equals false. Check event cache. Let's go here. And we're going to pass the manager data and a subscription ID. Let's spell it right. Okay. String subscription ID. JSON utilities to get value of path. String.empty. All right. Let's stand up this method. And we'll come down here to our privates underneath guard. Private static. What's the name of that method that I declared? Let's just grab this. Copy this. Spin down here. Bool. And I need to give it a type. String. Subscription action detail. Bool. Event in process equals false. Return event in process. Save. Now I've started building this new class called the Webhook request cache. And it's got an in-memory cache. And I'm going to make this into a singleton. I believe iMemory cache is thread safe. Let's find out. small component to my ASP.NET Core app that uses an iMemory cache is that it uses a memory cache. Is that memory cache thread safe? Okay, good. Microsoft was kind about it, and I need to share my screen. Here we go. So this accepts an iMemory cache. We're going to say record action. Check action. Checks the memory cache. For the subscription and action. Can I spell? Returns whether it's present or not, and adds it if it's not. Check action is processing. There. Var key. This becomes a bool. Bool is processing equals false. Is processing equals true. Return is processing. So if it's already in there, we're going to bail. I think instead of doing this, we're just going to return true. I'm going to put is processing back. Is present equals false. Equals true, else cache set is present equals false. Return is present. Save. Boop. And from minutes 5, I'm going to say private const int cache duration minutes. I'm going to say 2. There. All right, let's save this. Now, endpoint extensions, boggity boggity boo. I'm going to make the cache an ambient service. Webhook request cache equals app.services.getRequiredService. Save. Come down here. Webhook request cache test equals that if cache test is null, log and throw. And then up here, I don't have to do this null checking because we know it exists. The logger factory and logger, those are more optional. They may not exist. The request cache must exist. So I need to come out to program.cs here. Add main, add API endpoints, add open API, create bootlogger, system config, utility services. Now configure the logging. We have the HTTP client. Service builder dot add memory cache. Add singleton. Webhook request cache. I believe that's really all we need. Let's come back out to endpoint extensions. Let's go to the definition on this guy. And we'll run up here. Save all this. Run down here. And say event in process equals cache dot what? Check action is processing. Manager data dot action name. Okay. Get rid of that because this is a value type. Boolean is a value type, so it gets an implicit value when you declare it. So I didn't need that is false, or equals false rather. Now, if event is processing is true, and no content results in a 204. Excuse me. Description ID is already being processed for a mgr data.action name request. I think that's about all we need. So in order to test this, we're going to need to fire two events into the API. Now, I did some work yesterday afternoon to update my test harness a bit. Sub update, call, const string, test ls, sub create call equals at, we'll just set up a string literal for this stuff. And I'm going to need some JSON body for this. So let's go to Lemon Squeezy. And I've got a subscription created right here. And I'm just going to run down here and copy all of this. All right. Copy. Now I need text edit. Actually, I'll just do this. New file. And I'm going to call it createRec.json v. And let's go up to the top. And I need to do edit. Minimize this. Edit find. And I got to find a single quote. And I got to zap that. Okay, cool. Now, because I can't create a string literal from this that C# is happy about, what I need to do is edit, find replace. We're going to find all of the double quotes and replace them with single quotes. And there we go. And yeah, now it's very, very grouchy about this. But it's going to be okay. Let's run back out here, create subcall, paste it in here. It's looking pretty all right. So we can collapse that, close, don't save it, delete, goodbye. Yes, get lost. And now I want to come up to test webhook processor. Got to rename this to ls update sub. Rename this to update sub payload. String, not s byte, string, create sub payload equals test ls Sub create call will replace the single quotes with an escaped double quote. And var ls create sub data equals new. I'm just going to use anonymous objects. This is a test harness. We're going to throw this crap away. And rename symbol. This is the update response. Var create response equals all of that stuff. Cool. Update. Update. And now what we'll do is we'll print the stuff out as it comes in. Var create response content equals that, and then we'll do console dot writeLine. There we go. I love how quick on the uptake Copilot is in recognizing patterns of code that I've already written, and just sort of when it senses that I'm about to do something very similar to what I've already done, it spits it out for me. Now that's kind of a double-edged sword, but when I'm just quickly trying to slam together a test case, it's beautiful. All right, so here's our endpoint extensions. I got to come back into Webhook request cache, and I'm going to bump this to 5 because I got to step through this code. So here's what we're going to do. Spin up the API in debug mode and make sure it runs for us. It's building, it's spinning up. We didn't get any errors. It's listening. And let's come back to my test console. Here we go. Going to go here. Now we're going to drop a breakpoint. Let's get rid of all these breakpoints. Goodbye. Drop a breakpoint here and here. And then up here, we've already got a breakpoint there. Let's move that down here. And just in case I goof and hit continue instead of step, we can always escape our way out here. Excuse me. So let's debug the test app, because I want to step and make sure that it's doing the things that I want it to do. All right, receive call from Webhook receiver, groovy. We can actually zap that. All right, is active, ls substatus. We can zap this. Event is processing. we set that we are creating for subscription 899891. The event is processing is false. So we bounce over this and off we go. And it's not valid for the current subscription status. That's fine because we know that the person that we're creating this for is already there. So I kind of expect this bad request. The important thing is seeing if we get back up into this request cache. Are we paused anywhere? We don't seem to be. That's okay. Let's stop and stop. And let's run the API again. It's almost behaving like it's like hard crashed at that point, which it should not do. But let's just run this guy. We got a no content. All right. Subscription ID is already being processed. Webhook endpoints warning. All right. And it looks like we're good there. Now, I do want to come up in here and instead of doing a no content, we do need to send back just an okay. So we'll stop that. And let's go a step further in our test. Just really torture test this thing. Okay, yeah, I don't want that stuff. I want a new Safari window. And we're going to go to Portal. Go up to Azure. Now, this thing that I'm about to do might completely backfire and blow up in my face. We'll see. Storage browser. People's. And where's Rob is testing things? Here's Rob is testing things. You? Delete. Yep. Goodbye. All right. Now, let's see here. We'll run the API. Take a little sip of coffee. Actually, wait. Stop this. Come up to the endpoint extensions. We're going to set that to trace. Because I don't need to see that JSON print it out to the logs anymore. As a matter of fact, we're not going to want that in reality. Goodbye. I was just doing that to make sure the data was coming in. Call from webhook receiver. Log error. To do. Processed. I just want to pop that stuff in there. Manager response successful. Results okay. No content. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Save. Rebuild. Boop. And we'll run the API. There's all the things. And let's run the test console app. Go, go. We've got all of our stuff here. Handle store event, added 0, remove 0. Call timer, 1 second and 927 milliseconds. Graph calls take a while, man. Existing managed customer subscription, 1 second, 927. Oh, that's probably because of those breakpoints. But we get all of this trace information. Here we go, blah, blah, blah. Here's that, receive call. And let's see here. Subscription managed successfully for customer ID, boogity boo. Subscription ID, such and such is already being processed for a create request. All right. And we just have a little warning here, but we're good. And that did exactly what we wanted to do. So, our little experiment with using a memory cache is pretty all right. And let's see here. I should have this. All right, new subs are being expired immediately for some reason. I figured that out yesterday. Yes. Added a memory cache so that we can prevent processing the same activity because of multiple Webhook calls for that activity. Boop. And boop. Cool. So this is going to be a shorter stream because I've actually accomplished what I wanted to accomplish this morning, is getting that caching mechanism hooked up. And as you can see, super easy. Now I'm just using a very, very, very basic use case for this. I just want to make sure I'm not already processing this action for this subscription. That's all I care about. Now it occurs to me that I probably don't even need that subscription ID. Like, what do we want to do? We want to make sure that the subscription ID, manager account, action, we can leave that alone. Let's get rid of the subscription ID. We don't need that. We can create our cache key entirely from what's in this subscription action detail and make it a lot more semantic. Equals manager data dot, oh, stop that, mgr data dot customer profile ID We're not going to do manager data dot vendor supplied customer ID. We are going to do the SKU. And we can get rid of this. Cool. Oh, you know what? This doesn't have to be a short stream. I can accomplish some things in 10 minutes. Excuse me. What I can absolutely do in here is spin up to our API. We'll go into the API services, new file, class, and it's going to be a endpoint logic. That's all we're going to call it, is endpoint logic. And what we're going to do is look at the endpoint extensions and see what we need for these results, right? Receive call from webhook receiver, data.test. We'll do our test cleansing here. I think all of this stuff, including, and especially, we'll leave the guard required services, but this check event cache, build detail from event data, choose action. These guys, we're going to copy these. Oh no, I have to expand them. So let's grab this. run this. We're going to copy for now. Paste these. And we'll fix up the anger code. There's that. Fix the anger code. There's that. All right, do I have any more angry code? I do. Okay, all the angry code is gone. It has been made unangry. Public. Now, what's the return type going to be on this guy? It is going to be blah, 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 blah. Process store event. Public. Void, we're going to change that in a second. Process store event. This guy needs an I account manager. Account manager. It needs a webhook request cache. It needs a logger of some sort. Logger. We'll let that be nullable. And then finally it needs the event data. And I think those are all the things that are needed to process the store event. Now, you might be thinking, but Rob, why aren't you just injecting this stuff in a constructor? Because each endpoint thing that we need to execute might have different needs. And I don't want to overgeneralize. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to inject the dependencies of the function as parameters rather than have those particular method dependencies be global to the endpoint logic class. It's a little bit of a deviation from how we normally do things, but I think it's okay. And let's say it'll return a nullable iResult. Yeah, I like that. Here we go, process store event. Let's come over here and grab this. Boop. Boop. Return operation result. And now I can grab this whole bloody try-catch. The whole shebang. Everything. We're going to copy it, bounce over here, paste. Oh, we've got some anger code back. That's okay. And our indentation is hosed. Let's fix that. We want to go out 2. That's better. Check event cache. Let's make this static. It doesn't even have to be an instance method. What are you complaining about? So here's build detail from event data, choose action. Oh yeah, we have to bring that, bring this method. So I'll just copy it. Paste it here. Save. We still have some angry code. Account manager. And now endpoint logic is all happy. So cool. Next thing we gonna do is come up in here, that whole try catch block, comment that son of a gun out. And say operation result equals await endpoint logic, process store event with all the things. Now, I really prefer, or I've come to really prefer, especially when we've got multiple parameters like this and we're not using a class to hold the parameters, I've really come to appreciate this kind of structure where I will ls event, but rather than that, I think I want to rename this to Webhook payload. Store request payload. That's better. Now, the account manager, we're going to rename this to the account service. Endpoint logger. Cool, right? And what I really like using over here is these named parameter lists on method invocations. And it's not manager, but service. Now, it may seem like extra typing today, but in a month, I might come back and have to review this stuff and not know what the hell I'm looking at. And having these named parameter lists, in my invocations, just like this, is going to be a lifesaver. It's going to save me a whole lot of what? Huh? Oh gosh, and then I have to navigate over to the method declaration itself and see what's going on. And this at least gives me some semantics around what these things are. So one last thing before I call this a complete stream. Let's rebuild. Excuse me. All right. Stand it up. Spin it. Run our tests. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, we do have some errors that came back to the API from the actual account service. And it looks like I am not logging those correctly. Let's see what's happening in here. So associate the logging messages with the workload. Okay, so if manager response is null, we do that. If manager response dot has errors, it should be issuing a bad request. Excuse me. I need to do. V. Bounce that around. Save. All right, let's spin it up one more time. Okay, it's running, doing all the things. Run our test console. All right. Ah, here we go. Beautiful. Now, what can we do now? Come back over to endpoint extensions. All this green code. I say good afternoon. And now our endpoint logic is literally just mostly checking and logging. That's it. I don't really need this. Should probably log out that operation result. Oh no, because we're doing the logging inside the method. It's fine. We can also get rid of the check event cache method. Get rid of the build detail from event data. And the choose action. Get rid of that too. And now our endpoint extensions is once again focused only on the bare minimum amount of code to add these endpoints to our APIs. And I think that gives us a pretty productive stream. So I'm going to do some GitHub stuff, check things in, and do a little bit more testing on this stuff. And then when we come back this afternoon, I'm going to take a look at my immediate to-dos list. Here it is. And I'm going to figure out between now and 1 o'clock what of these I want to tackle. I feel like I should probably go into the main app and take care of some of these bugs that we found yesterday. And then we can retest by going through the whole new users sign up for an account, for a DM's Familiar account, upgrade, and see about fixing those UX issues that we discovered yesterday morning. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you later on. Until next time, happy coding. Bye now.